So last week we saw about Karna, and there were questions regarding Karna after that from a few different people, because I had mentioned that Karna had this wound of being abandoned and how it had, well, it creates a lot of pain naturally. It creates a lot of pain in our heart when we hurt, when we betrayed, when we lied to, when we rejected, when we and any violation in terms of our sense of self. So one person asked, how will we know what's our wound? And actually, I thought it was quite evident, whatever hurts. But if the person's asked the question, then I'm not exactly sure. It's maybe we're in denial that that's our wound, because our wound would be what hurts. It's what's the ouch in us, right? So even in a conversation at a party, if somebody, let's say if somebody's friends are very wealthy and they not as wealthy as everybody else in the group, they're wealthy enough, but maybe they're not that tier of wealth. And then something comes up about money in the conversation, it will be ouch. They get defensive, they get self-conscious, they get, because that's their wound. They don't, fit in, or they don't feel. But for other people, that doesn't feature. That's not their wound. They might not make even half as much as those people, and when the conversation is happening, they don't feel ouch. There's a acknowledgement that they don't fit into that tier of wealth, but there's no emotional reaction to it. For somebody else, like I know when I worked with the Anorexia Foundation, anything to do with weight, when you're talking to that person, or calories, wow, such a reaction. Whereas we all react. If somebody says you've lost weight, any one of us are like, really? And we get so happy. But it's not as extreme when it's somebody who's like a anorexic, or like I said, somebody who's just going through a divorce or going through a breakup. Then even walking down the street, they see two people holding hands, they feel ouch. Whereas, the rest of us are walking down the street, you see two people holding hands and you think, don't hold up traffic. We're not feeling ouch. So the thing that creates the feeling of ouch in us is the wound. And I'm pretty sure it would be quite evident to most people. But yes, some people may be in denial about what it is. Then ask anyone around you and they will tell you what you react to the most. But usually it's part of our identity. Like I said, somebody who's anorexic, they identify highly with their weight. Somebody who's they're wealthy, but not that level of wealth, identify highly with money. Somebody in a relationship identifies highly with that relationship. So it will be something we identify with highly. And then how to heal the wound. So actually, we'll go back to the story of Karna here. And when Karna and Indra are talking, Indra praises Karna extensively. Maybe I didn't do justice to how much Indra praises Karna. And it's because, like I mentioned last week, Karna literally has to tear off that kavacha it's like layer of skin, right? So if you see somebody do that, it's definitely going to, you're definitely going to have admiration for the person's, one, ability to endure pain, two, their ability to sacrifice. And I guess Indra's sense of guilt that he's asked for this. And I know previously I've mentioned, so here Indra is praising Karna to the extent that he says, Karna, you are the embodiment of Dharma. Now, I myself was surprised when I read that, because that's it. That's not. They must be saying these things very casually for Indra to just be saying that to Karna, because there's other times when Karna has really not been dharmic. We know in the game of dice he hasn't been. He told the Duryodhana to go and have that picnic near them. That's definitely a dharma. But here it's interesting that Indra is saying this to Karma and he means it. I remember once somebody said something to me, and then it was, lots of back and forth, and then they said something genuinely very caring and affectionate, which was contrary to the behavior that they had just done, like literally 2 minutes ago. And I was telling Swamiji, like, how can they say this when they've behaved in a way that's completely contrary? And Swamiji said, they mean it in that moment. Maybe next moment they don't mean it, but in that moment, they mean it. There are people that will just say things to deceive you or to manipulate you, but a lot of times, majority of people, in that moment, we forget past and future. And in that moment, we say and we mean it. So here, when Indra is complimenting Karna, he means it. Because in this moment, he's just seen Karna tear off the kavacha. In this moment, he's just seen Karna sacrifice his life. In this moment, he's just seen Karna have this incredibly large heart in charity. In this moment, he sees Karna have immense vulnerability, because Karna knows he's going to die without the kavacha, and yet he's giving it up. And so he's incredibly vulnerable. And so you're seeing the person's face as they're vulnerable. And so you're emotionally reacting to the person. And so he means it. All the praise that he's saying to Karna, he means it. But at another time, he wouldn't have said this. It's like, in this moment, related to this incident, I am full of praise. And in this moment, because it's related to this incident, I completely forget all past actions done by this person. This is very much human nature. We do this in relationships all the time. Something happens now and we judge it. We judge the person based only on the most recent action. And then we hold that opinion of that person to be true in that moment. We ourselves change our opinion, maybe the next morning, maybe the next day, maybe the next week. But in that moment, we think, yes, based on this incident, this is what the person's so nice, even though they have done X, Y, Z, which is not so nice. Yeah. And we can be so blind also that when we hate a person or we dislike a person and they've done something nice, we don't acknowledge it. And we hold on to only the past. So it's interesting, our perception is so, what's the word, skewed, has so many filters, our perception's really not clear and really not trustworthy. Because right now, Indra is so complementary to Karna, even though Indra has asked Karna for his kavacha, which is asking him for his life. And so why is Indra doing this? For many reasons. Okay, so why is Indra asking for the kavacha? One, he gave the boon to Yudhishthira, that he would ask and ensure that Karna is not a threat during the war. But Karna cannot be killed without the kavacha. Karna has 2 curses against him. Karna had lied to his guru, and so his guru had cursed him that when he needs it the most, he will forget what he needs, and that effectually he'll die in the battle. If you forget how to fight in the middle of the battle, you're going to die in the battle. And then, did I already tell you all the second curse? After his guru cursed him, Karna was so upset, understandably. He was sitting on the shores of the ocean and he was kind of like in this a heart that was full of grief and confusion and despair. And then from the corner of his eye, he saw something move and he shot. Who does that? Even Karna doesn't normally do that. But the heart was filled with so much grief. And then this is where he himself comes to say this after this. So he shoots, it's a cow. Killing a cow anyway is a sin. But the Brahmana whose cow it belonged to, it was a calf. Sorry, it wasn't a cow. Was particularly fond of this calf. We know today how fond people can be of their pets. We know today because it's a whole new level. But in those days, cows were their pets. They were part of the family. And so to have the cow killed, the Brahmana curses that he will die when he is helpless. So now these two curses have to come true because they've been given by Guru and by a Brahmana. The curses have to come true. The curses can't come true if Karna has his kavacha, because the kavacha means he can't be killed. So that kavacha has to be removed. Later on in the Mahabharata, when Karna does find out who he is, he tells Kunti that at the end of the war, you will still have 5 sons. Either me or Arjuna will be alive. We know Arjuna is not going to die because how many people have already given him the boon that he's going to succeed? So even Karna knows this. Even Karna knows he's going to be the one who dies. And for his words to come true, he has to die. So why is Indra taking the kavacha? Actually, there's so many reasons. And in our lives also. So actually, Karna does this beautifully, gracefully, and credit the way Karna has handled this situation. But let's say it's you and I in a normal circumstance. Somebody comes and asks for your kavacha and you think, you horrible person, you're taking the kavacha from me. And this is the one thing that I have going for me. And you're taking this one thing away from me. And now I'll be vulnerable and I'll be able to kill. And you're such a, you're the curse in my life. Normal reaction. This is a very feasible reaction. And usually this is what we do. Something happens in our life and the person who's doing it to us, they get the full brunt of all our anger. But why is this thing happening in our life? Whether it be a person in our family, in-law, my sister-in-law, it doesn't matter. A person in the family who is making my life as though miserable because I feel persecuted, I feel jealous, I feel victimized, I feel whatever it is that I feel. I blame everything on this sister or sister-in-law or person in the family, that you the cause of all my misery. Because of you, all these horrible things are happening to me and my heart is so heavy and my life is so terrible. But actually, there's many reasons that play out for something to happen to us. And this person is just one puzzle piece in the bigger picture. And we don't see the bigger picture. We just see this person as being the person that's horrible and our enemy and the cause of all of our sorrow. And then in my own life, sometimes when I think back, there would have been a person and this horrible thing happened and I would have felt hurt and betrayed or so many different avalanches of emotions. And then now, 10 years later, 15 years later, when I look back at the incident, I can see the domino pieces that came out of the incidents. I can see how I learned so much from the incident. I can see how I grew as a person from the incident. But in that moment, that person who said something, did something, I couldn't see beyond that. Whereas the person's not the cause of the event. They just one piece in the cause of the event. Just like Indra is just one piece in Karna having to lose his kavacha. Karna has to lose his kavacha because of the Guru's curse, the Brahmana's curse, what he says to Kunti, and so many other factors, right? The way he acted with Duryodhana, the choices he made in his life. So with our lives, what's our wound? Our wound tends to be that we hold one person responsible for pain. This person has caused injustice in my life, and therefore I have had to deal with this amount of suffering, this amount of loss, this amount of inconvenience, this amount of hardship. And then that's the wound. But actually here, Karna is showing us so beautifully that he doesn't see this as his wound. Karna's wound is he was abandoned, but this could be his wound. Indra asking for his kavacha could be his wound. But here you see this is not his wound. Yeah. Here we see that he's actually handling it so gracefully. At one point in Karna's life, when actually it was when he shot the cow and he was sitting on the beach, and there was now even more despair because he had already gotten cursed. He was already in immense grief and sense of feeling alone and helpless. And then he got the second curse, and it was just like he had plummeted even further into the depths of despair and depression. Suddenly there was this clarity in his thinking, and he realized, this lifetime, I have been dealt the hand of sorrow and suffering. Now that was interesting that was his revelation, and it gave him immense peace. And if it gave him immense peace, it works. But I don't agree with it. Because none of us can say this lifetime I've been dealt with sorrow and suffering. Full stop. And every single one of us can say this lifetime I've been dealt sorrow and suffering. Right? So like none of us can say it with a full stop, and every single one of us can say it, because who hasn't suffered? And to the extent that we can endure, that's how much we suffer. Yeah. Like sometimes I'll meet people and they so restless, they so disturbed, they feel so suffocated. And when the story is told, I'm thinking to myself, that's not so bad. It's bad, but it's not so bad. Like maybe a husband who is very possessive. It's not fun, I agree. It's not so bad also, compared to different stories that we hear. Then you can meet somebody who's been physically abused, sent to hospital several times over, made to be in constant stress of her life. Not just, I won't have money, like life. Next time he hits, he could kill. They're interesting. They can have the same level of restlessness. Yeah. Like how much we can endure is really varies, and we'll be pushed to the limit we can. But everyone will suffer. We might think that person's life is so nice, they don't have to suffer so much, but that's their threshold. They get pushed to their threshold. I know in yoga, very often the person she's twisting me, and she's like pulling, and then she'll say, that's your limit. And I'm like, I think so. Very rare I'll do a class with other people, but sometimes I do. And then she'll push them and they go like twice as further as me. And then she'll say, that's your limit. And I'll be like, yeah. Not as flexible, right? But my limit is my limit, and ouch is my limit. Then their limit is their limit, and ouch is their limit. Even emotionally, we'll all be pushed till our limit. All of us will face suffering. Yeah. Why? Because we've done those karmas, as if we've been such angels to everybody in our lives. We've also been cranky, we've also been selfish, we've also been ignorant. Ignorance is our greatest sin. Yeah. Scriptures only say this: ignorance is our greatest sin. Without meaning to, we go and do such silly things, which are insensitive or indisciplined or careless, and then that has ramifications, and then we have to face the consequences of that action. So Karna saying, this lifetime I've been dealt sorrow. And poor guy, he was having a genuinely bad day. I can understand why he feels that way. But Karna had good in his life. Again and again, I mentioned his parents adored him. They brought him up so well. Then he met Duryodhana. He got given a whole kingdom, just given. How many of us just get given a kingdom, yaar? Even Ka is like so hard that we just get given Ka. He got given a whole kingdom. That's serious punya. Lived in the palace, ruled with Duryodhana for 14 years. That's not a small amount of time. That's a significant amount of time to be sitting in that seat of authority with so much wealth. But Duryodhana had taken all the wealth from the Pandavas. They had so much wealth. We don't talk about it much, but he had a lovely wife who was very devoted to him. He had punya also. And when we do the whole Mahabharata story, we just do segment. And so you're seeing all the yucky bits. Because you know the story, we're not going to talk about every day he went home, the wife hugged him, gave him a kiss. Who's going to say that as part of the Mahabharata story? Cooked nice food for him. They sat, they had nice dinner, slept in comfortable bed. This will not be told as part of Mahabharata story. But it's part of everyone's life. He had plenty things to smile about. Even things he desperately wanted, he got. What did he desperately want? To find out who his mother was. He finds out who his parents are. He achieves this. Yeah. Desperately wanted to learn to be a warrior. He gets it. He studies from none other than Parshuram, Avatar. How many people can say my guru is an avatar? Yeah. Given validation from Bhagavatam. Lots of people might say Guru is avatar, but Bhagavatam is not saying the avatar. This Bhagavatam is saying Parshuram is avatar. Karna gets it. He wanted, he got. He wanted fame. He got. Did he have hardship? Sure. Did he get everything he wanted? Yes. So, did Karna have wounds? Yes. We can get stuck on our wounds and feeling sorry for ourselves. We can really get stuck in that. And this is Karna's character flaw. He got really stuck in feeling sorry for himself. And so how the second question was, how do we deal with our wounds? Firstly, it's not caused by a person, even though they might be a person. That seems to be the villain in our story. It's being caused by a number of things. Yeah. Secondly, whatever it is that's our wound is there for us to learn our life lesson. Our life lessons will be things like courage, patience, endurance, detachment. Yeah. I don't know what was Karna's life lesson. Maybe gratitude, if you think about it objectively. Me sitting here comfortably, AC and satsang, I can think about it objectively. I don't fault Karna. I'm sure he learned it though, because he had Krishna's blessings. Maybe it was detachment. Detachment could be another feasible life lesson for Karna. Forgiveness. Who would he have to forgive? Kunti. When Karna meets Kunti, forgiveness doesn't seem to be the life lesson he needs to learn, because he forgives her quite easily in that one meeting with her. He's resentful. No, not if you read it. You would think he'd be resentful. No, when you read the meeting of Karna with Kunti, there's hurt. There's why did you leave me, which is very natural. But he forgives quite easily. And he promises her that he won't hurt the Pandavas except for Arjuna. He does that quite easily, relatively easily. To say I'm not going to kill my brothers, he does it quite, like there's no resentment. If there was resentment, it will be I'll kill my brothers. Like they had you, I didn't have you. There was not, that wasn't there. And even Arjuna, it wasn't I hate Arjuna, it was my loyalty to Duryodhana, and Duryodhana is holding on to me to be the one that fights Arjuna, so I can't let Duryodhana down, so I have to fight Arjuna. It wasn't even, he actually, when he realized Arjuna is his brother, it wasn't resentment to Arjuna anymore. He fought Arjuna and he held on to fighting Arjuna because of loyalty to Duryodhana. So no, I don't think forgiveness was his lesson, but this is me sitting as a third party making a judgment. Please know that none of us will be able to tell what the other person's life lesson is. All of us will only know our own life lesson, right? So even with you, I can't sit here and say, your life lesson is you're too lazy, you need to be more active. I can't do that. No matter how lazy I think you are, that might not be your life lesson. This life, you might have punya to sleep in every day, go for it. You did the punya, sleep away. Me sitting here saying you need to wake up early doesn't work. So I won't ever know anyone else's life lesson. Each person will only able to figure out their life lesson. I did the same. Academically, objectively, I would say it would be detachment and gratitude. Because when we feel very sorry for ourselves, which is Karna's character flaw, one of the ways to stop feeling sorry for ourselves is to see we have so much. Right? This whole feeling sorry for ourselves is just, or to realize that the other thing, like I said, is that everyone suffers. I'm not so special for suffering. Absolutely everyone does. And I'm really not so special. But this is the interesting thing about feeling sorry for ourselves. We want to be so special. We want to be the only dukkhi, victimized person in this world. We do. It's a very warped sense of attention seeking or self-validation. So that to count blessings and to have gratitude and to not to think about ourselves is a life lesson for many people, huh? Many. And we don't have only one life lesson. We usually have quite a few because, you know, this life needs to be vasulified. You can't have only one lesson. Okay, so how do we get over our wounds? By acknowledging that it's not one thing that is causing my sorrow, but usually many things that are causing my sorrow, and there's a bigger picture at play. But also the other way to get over our wound is to hold on to the fact that God is always sending us help. So look, Karna was born to Kunti and he was going to be abandoned. But Surya Devata gave him that kavach and kundala. How many other characters in the Mahabharata are born with kavach and kundala? So yes, he was abandoned, but he was also blessed. And so the wound might be there, but I've also gained, I also have something to hold on to. And then, yes, he was adopted by a chariot driver and called Sutaputra, but then Duryodhana gave him kingdom. Again, blessings come to us in so many different ways. And then towards the end, he has Krishna guide him. And so many, it's like we get blessings. And not only that, I mean, there was Bhishmacharya also did guide him to some extent. It was a little bit unclear that Bhishmacharya was doing it for Karna's good. It could have been seen as insult, but actually he was doing it for Karna's good. And so blessings come even when we don't recognize it. Yeah. And so how to get over our wound? Know that we have everything that we need to get over it. Yeah. We've been given everything that we need to get over it. And life will have shown you this so many times, that something happens and you suddenly you need and just the day before somebody had given it to you. Yeah. Something happens and you need and you were just doing Diwali cleaning and you took it out of the drawer. Yeah. So physically we have experienced that things we need are there. They come to us. Then even with our emotional wounds, we need to remember that whatever we need to heal ourselves is already there. And really with all of us listening to the Mahabharata, we have satsang. Satsang is incredible for helping us heal wounds. Yeah. And so the one thing to really hold on to, so this is something else that I had mentioned in a previous satsang when I talked about Karna. So when Indra says to Karna that you are the embodiment of Dharma, we can't take this sentence seriously because it's contradicted. So we know that the rules, the universal laws are what is Sat, what is truth, that which can never be contradicted. Even in terms of when we're dreaming, that let's say I'm dreaming, I'm young and thin, and I wake up and I'm not. So the young and thin got contradicted by the not so young and thin. And then which one's true? Neither. Because waking contradicts dream and dream contradicts waking, and so neither are true. If something can be contradicted, it is not Sat in the absolute sense. And so here too with Karna, is he almost always dharmic? To be called the embodiment of dharmic? No, that can definitely be contradicted. So it's not true. So what do we hold on to? When we know that the Sat is that which can never be contradicted to, what should we hold on to? Sat. So that it's always, always there with us. So earlier I had said, Indra is praising Karna. Why? Because based on this previous incident that has just happened, Karna is amazing in this incident, and so he's getting praised. And so our perception when we are interacting with people, we also based our interaction on the previous incident that just happened, and then we judge the person based on that incident. Can we trust our mind? No. So what can we trust? The truth. How will we know what's the truth? It shouldn't go. So when I'm talking to you, can I trust you? If I can't contradict what you're saying right now, how many of us are like that? So can I trust you? You're all feeling very personal. I love how you're nodding. Really, I can trust you? You'll always be there for me? What if you're sick one day and you can't come? But if you're sick and you can't come, you can't come. Then how can I trust you? You won't get sick? That's not in our hands. Right? You know, I had promised my parents I'd go for their 50th wedding anniversary. I couldn't go. I wanted to. It broke my heart that I couldn't, but I couldn't go. Things aren't always in our hands. So what do I hold on to? Can't trust my own mind. It's only telling me the most recent information. It forgets all the past. So what do I trust? This is important because why? We have to heal our wounds. To heal our wounds, we have to hold on to something that's always there, something that's reliable, something that can never be contradicted. Scriptures. We have to understand the scriptures. Guru. Definitely we can hold on to Guru. Not everyone is so blessed. If you have Guru, hold on. Hold on really tight. Without suffocating Guru. And if you don't, and if Guru is touch me not types, then what do we do? We hold on to the feet of the Lord. Okay, we hold on to He loves me. She, whatever you want to call God as, he or she, it. Yeah. We don't even hold on to I love God because our love is not so reliable. One day we love, one day we forget. One day we think, no, you don't exist, you hate. No, I'm not in the mood anymore. So many of my teenagers are going through that phase. I don't believe in God. I'm like, okay, God believes in you, sit down. Hold on to He loves me. How can we hold on to this? God's very nature is love, unconditional and pure. So actually, got no choice to love me. Just like the sun has no choice but to shine, and it will shine on me because it has no choice to shine. So I don't deserve sun to shine on me, but sun has to shine on me because that's what sun does. In the same way, divinity, God is love, unconditional and pure. So it has to love me. Deserving of it, undeserving of it, doesn't matter. That's what divinity does, love. So however deep my wound, that's how much faith I have to have that divinity loves me and the wound will be cured. Love cures all wounds. Because the wounds are, actually the wound is, I'm not loved. Whether it's I'm not rich enough, Why you want to be so rich? Because you want to be accepted, because you want to be loved. I'm not thin enough. Why you want to be thin? I do not understand this. If I'm thinner, I'll be loved more. How is this thinking? How do we accept this kind of thinking? But we do. People actually think that. If I'm thinner, I'll be loved. If I'm richer, I'll be loved. So the wound is, I'm not loved. No point in looking to husband, wife, child, father, mother to love me. They are as unreliable as I am. I'm not saying they're unreliable. I'm saying we all are. Even I'm unreliable to love them. They also have wound. Right? Parent has wound, child has wound. Husband has wound, wife has wound. Then you don't know who's there. No point. Yeah. So whose love should we hold on to? And then once we have held on to that love, that divinity's love is unconditional and pure, and so I am loved, suddenly I can love more. It's our wounds that stop us from loving, because we feel unloved. And same here with Karna. Right? Why did Karna love Duryodhana? Because he felt Duryodhana accepted him. Duryodhana loved him. So suddenly he can love Duryodhana. Why can't he love Yudhishthira and the Pandavas at this point in time? Because Yudhishthira hasn't accepted him. Yudhishthira doesn't love him. Karna adored his mother. Why? Because she loved him. When we feel loved, we're so willing to love. Yeah? When we feel unloved, we also become very defensive. See how defensive Karna was. He was defensive to the whole world. Why was he defensive to the whole world? The whole world called him Sutaputra. The whole world rejected him. Actually, the whole world didn't reject him. He felt rejected by the whole world, and so he couldn't love the whole world. The moment one person accepted him, he loved that person. Yeah. Are we going to wait for one person to accept us? May happen, may never happen. But God loves us. Why sit and wait for a person who may come, may not come, may be able to make us feel loved, may not be able to make us feel loved? So we feel loved because it's true. It's Sat. God is love. God will love us. Has to. Choiceless. Now I'm loved. That's actually all I need. I'm loved. My wound is healed. Fortunately for Karna, that wound of his is healed when he meets Kunti. He has many happy endings. His ultimate ending is sad only, but not really. We all have to die, one way or the other. He dies seeing Krishna. Not a bad death, huh? Yes, both the curses came true, not so good. But not so bad also. And he dies fulfilling his promise to his friend. Also not so bad. That's what he wanted. He wanted to be there for Duryodhana. He was there for Duryodhana. He got many things he wanted. So he's not so tragic. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is because we should know that we're not so tragic. I have sympathy for Karna's plights, but we should not feel so tragic. That's why I'm emphasizing it, because a lot of people identify with Karna and then they feel their lives are so tragic, like Karna's life is so tragic. And that's why the hero of the Mahabharata is Yudhishthira and Arjuna. Please identify with them. Yeah. Why? They didn't feel life was tragic, even though they had lots of tragedies in their lives. Yeah. They had to go through game of dice. They had to lose kingdom. They lost. They were poisoned. They were tried to burn. They were. Yeah. They had tragedies in their lives. They saw their children murdered in front of them. It's horrible. Yet never once do we see Arjuna behaving tragic. Little bit in the beginning of the Gita, slightly forgivable. It was short. Never once do we see it distracting, tragic. That's why they considered the heroes. Okay, coming back to the story. Have we finished Karna completely?
Yeah, we were at
Story incognito, the year. Bhim kills Kicha. Okay, coming back to that story, I actually didn't go into the details of the story. I've reread the section. The queen is in her chamber. The brother comes to visit. Kicha comes to visit, sees Draupadi. The queen tells her brother, don't. Draupadi says, I'm married, don't. The queen urges her brother not to. He is very besotted. Finally, the queen tells Draupadi, go and get something from his house for me. Draupadi says, what are you doing? You know his intentions. Why are you sending me to his house? And she says, you're a woman. Don't do this. So here you can see Draupadi's despair. You know, victim is when you have no control. Unfortunately, here there is very little control because she is a servant also, right? They incognito, there's lots of things. So she has to go to the house because the queen has ordered it. And he does try to take her by force. And this is the second time. You can imagine what Draupadi is feeling. So from his house, she manages to push him away and she runs straight into the court. Yudhishthira is there as the minister to the king. She's gone straight to the king in the court and said, do something. This is unjust behavior. It's almost like Draupadi is reliving the game of dice. So Kicha is the queen's brother, but he's also head of the army. This king is not a very dynamic king. He needed people to do things for him to hold his power. Kicha was one of the people he needed, so he wasn't going to reprimand him. So Draupadi is looking at Yudhishthira because Yudhishthira is there in the court. Yudhishthira talks in code and says, wait 10 days. Our 1 year is over in 10 days. After 10 days, you can have whatever you ask for. Just don't ask for it right this moment because of the incognito, right? At that moment, Bhim comes into the court carrying some food to deliver to the king because he was working in the kitchen. Bhim sees Draupadi, immediately there's reaction because you must remember Bhim has a very soft spot for Draupadi. But Yudhishthira reiterates again in their code language about something. He's talking about firewood and it burning and water. But basically what he's saying is there's only 10 more days. Just wait 10 days. Justice will be given to you in 10 days. For the first time in the entire Mahabharata, Bhim listens to Yudhishthira and doesn't fight. When Draupadi sees Bhim listening, she's heartbroken. Bhim's the one person who used to stand by her. So she goes to visit Bhim at night in his room, and Bhim's giving such good advice. He's trying to convince her, just 10 days, just 10 days. Otherwise, we blow our cover, and that's another 13 years incognito. You don't want to have to go for another 13 years. Just 10 days, then we'll do whatever you want. If you put yourself in Draupadi's shoes at this point in time, of course, they walked around bare feet, but you'll know what I mean. There's some days when you feel you just can't take it anymore. This is the second person that's tried to take her by force. Plus, she had to deal with the game of dice. She's been living as a maid for the last 11 months, away from her husband. In that moment, Draupadi didn't want to take it anymore. The feeling is, it's unjust. I deserve justice. Y'all didn't stand up for me at the game of dice. Y'all didn't stand up for me. You're not standing up for me now. Like, when are y'all going to stand up for me? If you sit in Draupadi's position, you really can't understand. Then you sit in Yudhishthira's position, it's 10 more days. I'll give you everything you want. Just wait a week. Both are right. This is, again, when we talk about how to heal our wounds, so often both are right. Yudhishthira's right. Wait 10 days. I know it's been tough, but you've endured. You've endured 13 years, 14 years now almost. You're 10 days shy of enduring 14 years. Just wait. And you can understand Draupadi also. I didn't do the 3 weeks quarantine or the 2 weeks quarantine or the 1 week quarantine, but many people who did the quarantine, they told me they were fine for the whole 3 weeks. And then the day they were going to be released, that day was just so bad. Sometimes when you're close to the end, you lose your forbearance or you get impatient, basically, right? Because the end is in sight, you get impatient. In fact, many people in management also, they talk about this. When we're working towards a goal, people will work so steadily towards the goal. And a lot of people, when it's like 5% left or 10% left to leave the goal, that's when they muck up or they quit. So there's something about when you're so close, and that's when the mind has to really be held in equipoise, which we see again, Yudhishthira is amazing at. But when Draupadi has this, she starts crying. And, when you're frustrated and you're hurt and and Bhim can't see it. And she not only starts crying, she starts showing him all the calluses in her hand. She starts showing him, like how much weight she's lost. And she's like, and y'all basically, you don't love me, so we'll kill Bhim. Yeah. So Bhim kills Kicha. Kicha was incredibly strong. There were only 4 people, Balram, Duryodhana, Bhim, and Kicha. They were that category of strong. And so the only people who could have killed him were Bhim, Balram, and Duryodhana. When news gets back to Hastinapur that Kicha has been killed and the way he's been killed, it's not hard to figure out who killed him. Balram wasn't going to go there and kill him. Duryodhana knows he didn't do it. It had to be Bhim. Fortunately, by the time the gossip got there, you have to ride a horse, go to Hastinapur. 2-3 days had gone by the time Duryodhana got his act together, came to Virat's kingdom. 2-3 days have gone. And actually, the exile period was over. Yudhishthira was very cautious by nature. So when he calculated the end of the 14th year, he left a week's grace. So the 14th year was actually already over. I think 2 days after this incident happened. But Yudhishthira wanted, because Duryodhana was so sneaky, he wanted to make sure it was fully, like the whole 1 week had gone and the 14 years were well and truly over and there can be no dispute about the date. And so he left that grace period. But it was already over. The 14 years were already over, because remember, he had the boon also that they won't be recognized, and that boon had to come true. And so now Duryodhana has come with the entire army of Hastinapur. Because 14 years, if they're not caught, they now have right to kingdom, and Duryodhana has to give back the kingdom. And of course, he doesn't want to. So it's not like he came and says, oh, I caught you. He came here with the full intention of killing the Pandavas. So he comes with the entire army of Hastinapur, including Dronacharya and Bhishmacharya. Dronacharya and Bhishmacharya don't know that the Pandavas are in hiding. Duryodhana has worked it out and brought the army. He's told them, let's conquer this kingdom. Who? Bhishmacharya. And those days they conquered kingdoms, they took kingdoms under their kingdoms. Virat, Kicha died, meaning there was no head of the army. Virat's kingdom was weak, we can take over the kingdom. Bhishmacharya said, okay. Dronacharya said, okay. They came, not knowing that Pandavas were hiding here. Shall we finish this bit of the story? It's a nice, fun bit. This is a fun bit of the Mahabharata. So Duryodhana comes up with a plan that the cows, I can't remember the details, guys, east, west, south, where something, the cows were in one direction. West, let's say the cows were in the west. Part of the Hastinapur army went to go steal the cows, which means Virat's kingdom would respond by sending their whole army to the west to protect the cows. Cows are wealth in those days, right? That means the army now is being occupied by that small group. The rest of the army would attack Virat's kingdom from the east. I might have the directions wrong, but y'all got the plot. So off they went to execute the plan. Full army went to the east to protect the cows. There's no army left in Virat's kingdom. The Hastinapur army attacks Virat's kingdom, and now the king is upset, the prince is upset. Now what do we do? Arjuna, whose name as the eunuch was Brinala, is Arjuna. Brinala is Arjuna. Brinala tells the prince that, get in the chariot, I'll fight with you. The prince thinks, really? You're gonna fight with me? This prince is so scared. He's so scared to fight. He's like the small young boy. You can think of like this 18-year-old boy, and the whole Hastinapur army is coming, and he's so scared. He's so sweet. He's so scared. He's like, okay, you help me. Even though she's dressed in a sari, she's got her hair and her bangles. And so instead of going to fight the army, when Brinala gets onto the chariot, she drives, I don't know, politically correct what to use, to the they drive to the tree, because the Pandavas had wrapped their weapons up and hung it like a corpse from a particular tree. And they made up the story about ghosts and all of that. So nobody went near this tree and nobody picked on their weapons. But Arjuna now needed to fight, so he needed the Gandiva bow. So he went straight to the tree. This poor prince, already scared of the army, now he's scared of ghosts, and you're going to the tree. This was so cute. I think in the entire Mahabharata, I like this prince. So he brings down all the weapons, he strings the Gandiva bow, and he twangs it. Now, it would have been kilometers away. Drona, Bhishma, Duryodhana, all of them are not standing like you and me. They're kilometers away. Arjuna twangs the Gandiva bow, like he strung it. He wanted to check consistency of the tension of the string. He twangs the bow. And Bhishma and Drona says, that's the Gandiva. And that's Arjuna. Imagine, huh? They recognize the twang of the bow. 2 seconds after that, 2 arrows land in front of Bhishmacharya's feet. 2 seconds after that, 2 arrows land in front of Dronacharya's feet. What was Arjuna doing? Prostrating in front of Bhishmacharya and Dronacharya. Bhishmacharya is so proud. The smile on his face, my Arjuna. And look, even in this context, he has saluted first before fighting. Drona's the same. My student, he has saluted. He's going to fight me, but he has saluted me first. This is Brindala in his sari blouse with the sari. Bhishma and Drona don't quite recognize him because he's dressed as a eunuch. But they recognize the arrow, the archery, and the twang of the Gandiva bow. The entire Hastinapur army, Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Duryodhana, Shishupal, Shikandi, and Karna. All these heroes are on the Hastinapur side of the army. On Virat's kingdom, there's this lovely prince and Brindala, Arjuna. So Arjuna now jumps down. He was in the whole time. He was the charioteer. He jumps down as charioteer. He tells the prince, you drive the chariot. By this point, the prince is like, yes, I'll drive the chariot. You fight. Arjuna single-handedly fights them all. He beats the entire Hastinapur army single-handedly. This point is very significant. He beats Karna, Duryodhana, Shakuni, Dushashan, all 4 of them. He beats Bhishma, he beats Dronacharya. He wins the entire battle and goes back to the court. The whole time in the court, the king is having palpitations. My son, he's going to fight the Hastinapur army. How will he do? And Yudhishthira keeps telling the king, don't worry, Brindala is there. And the king is like, what is wrong with you? What do you think Brindala can do? Brindala's teaching my daughter dance. You think she's going to be any good at fighting the Hastinapur army? Again, the king is getting palpitations. My poor son. Why are you worried? Your son is fine. Brindala is there. The king was so angry at Yudhishthira. So angry at Yudhishthira. They were playing dice. He takes the dice and he throws it at Yudhishthira and says, what nonsense are you talking? What good can Brindala do? When the dice hits Yudhishthira, his nose starts bleeding. Remember Arjuna's vow? Draupadi runs from the other end of the court and catches Yudhishthira's blood in her hand and then uses her sari to wipe Yudhishthira's nose. The king is looking at this thinking, what's going on here? By the time Arjuna comes in the chariot and says, the battle has been won. The king praises his son. Yudhishthira says, your son did nothing. It's Brindala that's won this battle. Again, the king's about to. And at that point, Bhim, Nakula, Sahadev, Arjuna all step up and don't you dare say anything against Yudhishthira. And so they reveal themselves. Yudhishthira says, I am Yudhishthira, this is Bhim, this is Arjuna, this is Nakula, this is Sahadev. We have been hiding in your kingdom, and this is Draupadi. So they reveal themselves. The king's very, 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 very grateful that the battle has been won and offers Uttara, his daughter, who Arjuna has been teaching dance to Arjuna to marry. Arjuna says, I've taught her like my daughter this whole time. I can't possibly marry her. So we will give her to Abhimanyu. So Abhimanyu, Arjuna's and Subhadra's son, marries Uttara, who learned dance from Arjuna in the last year. So Arjuna is both their gurus. Arjuna teaches Abhimanyu archery and Uttara dance. So nice. We'll stop here at this happy point where battle has been won and nice wedding going on between Abhimanyu and Uttara. Any questions? Yes. The Pandavas' children, they were all with their maternal grandparents. So Abhimanyu was with Krishna. Draupadi's sons were with Drupada, but Draupadi's sons moved to be with Krishna the last 2 years. The 13th and 14th year of exile, Krishna took Draupadi's 5 sons as well and taught them with Abhimanyu some warfare skills. So Krishna trained a lot of the Pandava kids. Yeah. When Kicha died, there was huge investigation. Was Bhim found? No, because he was in the kitchen. But yeah, there was lots of Ramagama when Kicha was killed. It was devastating to the kingdom because he was in charge of the army. Yeah, I didn't go into all those nuances. There was. They would have suspected Draupadi. So Draupadi said she was married, and she said she was married to a yaksha. So she didn't say she was married to, of course, Bhim and them. And so when Kicha was killed, Draupadi said her husband, the yaksha, killed him. And yakshas have immense powers, so they believed her. And she said, I had warned you. And so she was going to be thrown out of the court also, because of course the queen doesn't want to keep her as that's her brother after all. So there was a lot of Amagama. That's why she was in the court when Yudhishthira's died. She wasn't with the queen anymore. She used to stay in the court near Yudhishthira. Yeah, I'm not going into those details, but yes, those details did happen. You have questions? Oh.
So, Nakula knew what was going to happen.
Sahadev knew what was going to happen.
Also, you said
Vidura didn't know the future. He would know whenever Duryodhana was scheming something, he would find out. But Vidur didn't know the future.
So doesn't that like in our
Some incidences he knows.
So doesn't that like when we listen to things, isn't that like what also prejudice? Like we're biased towards the situation.
If we hear about the future, are we biased towards the situation? But we don't know the future. Sahadev never said anything.
He did.
So they didn't know their future. Sahadev never opened his mouth. I mean, except when asked directly a question. So they didn't know. But yeah, if we know our future, it does. Actually, the truth is we can't know the future because it's not fixed. It's probabilities. There's high probability of things happening, low probability of things happening, but it's not fixed. High probability that I will drink chai tomorrow morning. High probability that I will continue taking satsangs. High probability that, but not fixed. Very low probability of me ever going to a nightclub. Very low probability, but nothing's fixed. It's just probabilities.
You said we get pain. How much?
We'll get that much pain to the capacity that we're able to endure. Yes,
So more than that, we don't have.
we'll get, because our limit should be pushed also.
How do you explain something?
Low threshold. Actually, suicide is a really tricky area. Very, very tricky area. So firstly, it's not so many people that commit suicide. It's not easy to commit suicide. It takes immense courage to commit suicide. Scriptures tell us it's the worst thing you can do. Usually that's all I'll repeat. Doesn't help you solve anything. So, why did they commit suicide? You're right, probably they felt they reached their threshold of pain. But just like when I said it with Draupadi, there's some days when you think, I just can't take it. If you wait, you'll be okay. Spirituality, they call it the dark night of the soul. Well, in Christianity, they call it the dark night of the soul. Basically, when it's dark, which we don't understand because we live in Hong Kong. The other countries, which are not so lit up, when it's dark, you really don't feel the sun is going to rise and you feel you're just stuck in this darkness. But the sun does rise. The sun always rises. And the darkness always goes. And so no matter how bad it is, take a deep breath. Wait. Sun always, always rises. Did I answer your question? I'm not answering questions about suicide because it's all very tricky. Also, when people's loved ones have committed suicide, they don't want to hear these things. They don't want to hear what happens. But this much I assure you, they're not spared from pain. They don't escape anything. So rather you stay. Yeah.
Why didn't Arjuna just kill?
Duryodhana.
Yeah,
Why didn't Arjuna kill Duryodhana now
Yeah, he's like
in this
ready.
battle?
Finish it.
Yeah. My honest answer is I don't know. My guess is it's not that, it wasn't that kind of a battle that warranted killing.
because nobody was killed in this battle. So this was just a, you can't have my kingdom battle. It wasn't a fight to the death battle. Kshatriyas had different norms and rules for how they fought and when they fought. And like I said, my honest answer is I don't know, but this would be my educated guess that to ward off them taking over the kingdom, it didn't warrant killing. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit kapag asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amatam kamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.